Hello, guys, and welcome. My name is Taylor, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to discuss entering offerings in Church360 members today. So I just wanted to just lightly introduce myself, and let's see. To do that, let's see. There's always one thing that goes wrong, so it's like, of course, it's going to be this one. Okay, my bad. But my name is Taylor Brown. I am a support technician here at Concordia. I've been here for almost 5 years now, and I've been really passionate about helping the ministry and helping with the administrative tasks so that you can better focus on spreading the good word. We do have all phones and microphones muted for this webinar, just so everybody can hear me. But we also do have a chat system in the webinar that you can type in any sort of questions that you might have. Even if I'm not looking over to see what those questions are, I do have my manager, Rod Kiles, in the chat as well, and he'll be answering questions as they come in during my presentation, and any sort of questions that he doesn't get to or just aren't answered, either I will answer at the end of everything, or we'll definitely open it up for question and answer at the end of this webinar. But also, if it's more specific to your church or your database, then we can reach out to you from support afterwards. So, just as an overview of what we're going to be going over today, we're going over the class agenda right now. And that will include just a general outline. And then after that, I'll go into my discussion, my presentation of all the different aspects relating to offerings. And then we'll just have a small quiz. It's just 5 poll questions, just to see if I am explaining those due points accurately. And then we'll also just open it up for a Q&A session afterwards, should we need it. So for the outline today, we're going to first focus on funds, which are those particular purposes that offerings are attributed to, and how to create them, how to edit them, and then, if they're no longer used, you can merge or archive them. Then we'll go into envelopes, how to assign envelope numbers, how to edit them manually, as well as how to use the renumbering utility. Then we'll also go over pledges, just any sort of pledge, whether your church uses pledges or not, then we do go over that so that you can keep track of those pledges. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty and actually the typical offering entry that you'll probably be doing every single week. And then we'll kind of go over the offering view and the offering screen so that you can always get summaries and get information, as well as editing offerings that have already been put in. Then we'll also go into Vanco integration. It is an e-giving service that you can subscribe to separately, but then they can integrate with the Church360 system so that you don't have to enter in those e-giving offerings, and they would just be imported automatically. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with creating contribution statements with the offerings that you have put in. So if all looks well, then let's just go ahead and get started. So first off here, we have our view here. Typically, it's the people view that you log in and you see first. But over to the top right, we have a gear icon, and depending on your permissions, you might have all of these listed, or you might just have a few. But under collections, we have an option for envelopes, funds, and pledges. And these are views that we'll be going over today. But first, let's go ahead and go to funds, and we'll swing back to the other two in just a bit. So funds, when we go to the funds view, these are the actual purposes for offerings. These are the restrictions on what someone has given, just for any sort of purpose. And this can be as general or it can be as specific as you would like. So here we can see that on our funds view, we have the funds and then we have total funds for this year, and that will always be updated. And then we have a few options here to both add a fund, we can add a fund category, and then we can merge funds. So, while you're working here or working throughout the year, you might find that you need to create a specific fund that someone wants to attribute their offerings to, and you would go up here to create them. So, for instance, say I need to create a memorial fund. And so I would go ahead and click the Add Fund button here. And I'll have to scroll down because it does add the row to the bottom here. And then I can just type in memorial fund. And then maybe this fund is for a particular person. And maybe I want to specify that it is Debbie Watkins. So for a memorial for this specific person, again, you can just be just a general memorial fund, or it can be a specific person as general or as specific as you want. You can choose to add a number for your fund so that when you're adding in offerings, you can just type in the number as opposed to typing out the entire fund. And with things like memorial funds and things that are specific, maybe you want a specific number for that. So, maybe I'll just go ahead and go with 1, 2, 3, and we can just type that in as we need. Then we also have the color. So when you're looking at the offering screen, the funds are color coded just to make things a little more striking and easier to see. It doesn't affect anything else. So, you can just keep the color just whatever the default is, or you can change it however it is that you'd like. Then you have the option to exclude from statements entirely or just mark them as non-deductible. So if you had maybe a giver who was giving from an IRA fund and it's not tax deductible, you could create a fund strictly for IRA donations, so that then you can choose either to include it on the statement but have it in its own little section and mark it as non-deductible, and you would do that by just marking this button. Or you could exclude it from statements entirely and it would not show on their statement. So we just have those couple of choices, and you can always come back here and edit them as you need, but you do have those two options here. So I'll go ahead and save Debbie's Memorial Fund for right now. And you can see here that she is on the bottom here, but if I click on the leftmost icon here, I can actually drag and drop exactly what order it is that I want. So if I wanted, I could make the memorial fund just directly under the general fund if I wanted to. And then, then I could just go on and just create things as I need. For this example, I'd also like to add a fund, maybe another memorial fund for Jim Bryant. And then I can have, just 456 as that number and enter in that number. And maybe, it's not going to be a non-deductible offering, and we can just save it there. And with these two offerings, people will be able to give, and, it would appear on their statement. And then maybe next year, you come back here and you're looking at your funds and you're like, oh, I need to kind of clean these things up. Because, maybe you just have a whole bunch of memorial funds or a whole bunch of different projects that either you're not using anymore or, they're just getting a little too cluttered. And so there are a few different ways that you can approach this. And one of them is by categorization. And you can add a fund category if you were inclined, just to kind of group different funds together. So if I had a whole bunch of memorial funds, then I could create a category called memorial funds, and just have that as a general name. And then I could just have that as a group and move Debbie and Jim down here, if I can, and just move them under this specific category. So we do have that option for different categorizations and different organizations. You also have the option to merge funds together. And so if next year, you have all of these memorial funds, no one's going to be giving offerings to them anymore. Everybody has their statement for that particular memorial fund. So you just don't need these funds anymore. So you have a few choices. If you're just not going to be using them at all, you could choose to merge the funds together and say maybe add Jim's to Debbie's, so that any sort of offering that was attributed to Jim's account can be moved over to Debbie's account. And then we just merge those two together so that only Debbie's remains. And from here, you could just rename Debbie's by editing here all the way over to the right using these action buttons. And to edit a particular fund, you would click the pencil icon here and just change the name, the number. If you want to exclude it, you can always come back and edit these as you need, and then just save that information for future use. On the other hand, you do have the option to also archive these funds as well. So if if categorization, there's just too many, if you just can't merge them all together, if you're not going to be using them, you don't want them to be an entry option for offering entry, and you don't want them to show up on any sort of reports anymore, you can choose to delete or archive the fund. So here with the memorial fund, since there are no offerings attributed to it, we just created it. It does have a trash can icon here that you can click on here to delete. And you can see here that it has disappeared. If there are any sort of funds, say maybe for social concerns, that do have transactions attributed to them, then you would have the option to archive it instead. So that then that fund, it is hidden, but the historical information is still retained so that you can always unarchive it if it ever comes back that you need to use it, or if you need it for some sort of report. So that is covering over the funds area. And while you're also cleaning things up, you might choose to print or export. We always have those options for most of our views, especially for collections. So you can always review it that way as well. So from here, now that we have something to attribute an offering to, now we can actually start adding in people who pledged to a particular fund. And we'll go up here to the gear icon here. And we'll go over here to pledges. And in the pledge area here, we do have this first row up here. And the first option would be to select the giving unit. And this can include both individuals and married couples. So if someone is giving jointly, you'll be able to choose both of them. So using this drop-down menu here, say we'll go ahead and choose Phil and Jackie Graham here. And say they want to give $100 every month. So $1,200 for a year for the year of 2024, but given every single month, and that's when you're going to be checking in on their progress. So first we're going to give the amount for the frequency, not the total, but just the frequency. And we're going to go ahead and put in maybe $100. And then the period we would choose using this drop-down menu for every month. We do have different options here, including a total amount if they wanted to just add that. But if they wanted to give for every month and, be able to check their progress for every month, then we can choose that. And then we'll choose the starting and ending date. When you click in here, you can just choose from your date selector here. So I'll go ahead and choose January 1st, and then kind of move over here to December 31st and have that for a full year. And then I'll be able to choose the fund. And here we'll go ahead and choose the mission fund for this example. And another interesting perk in Church360 is you don't have to put in the pledge before you start putting in offerings. So, maybe it's just the middle of the year, maybe they just decided to do this pledge from the beginning of the year, they've already been giving, but you just hadn't put the pledge in yet. That is perfectly fine. As long as there is any sort of offering in the date range that you selected to that particular fund, then those offerings will be attributed to this pledge. And Phil and Jackie Graham is one such example. If we click the Add Pledge at the end of the row here, you can see that their pledge has been added, and you can also see their given to date amount as well. So, if you're just putting this in the beginning of the year, that's going to be naturally 0. But if they have given any sort of offerings to this pledge, then that will already be attributed to it. And so they'll be able to see that on their contribution statement immediately. Then you just would continue to add in these pledges, and as long as the date range is within the realm of today, so today is within 2024, and it does include this, so it is an active pledge, it will be automatically shown here. But the other ones that are inactive are hidden. If you wanted to see all of the pledges here, you'd be able to just click this drop down menu here and just choose to show all. And you can definitely see all of your historical information, and then you can download or print all or active pledges as you need. So just to keep that in mind, just in case you ever needed to look back at previous pledges as well. And if you ever find that you make a mistake with pledges, say with maybe the Abbotts here, maybe you made a mistake and it wasn't supposed to be, you can just kind of hover over these pledges here, go all the way over to the right to this little minus sign and click the delete button. And that will remove the pledge from the system. So, we have the funds, we have the pledges, and now we can actually get into the envelope numbers now. And in Church360, envelope numbers are not required. You can attribute an offering to just a person's name. That is perfectly all right. So you're not required at all to have a particular number in order for a person to give and to get a contribution statement. So if you're not using physical envelopes, you don't have to. If you are still using physical envelopes, that is also fine. We do have this page here specifically for that purpose. And here, when you're looking at the envelope area, you can see that we have a list of everybody's name, and then in the second column we have their spouse. And so this is another way, in addition to adding marriages to a individual's person record, you can actually add in marriages here as well. For example, if we had Jeffrey Alexander and Natalie Alexander, they had gotten married and now they want to contribute together, then we can click add a spouse here and start typing in Natalie's name here. And we can select her, and you can see here that her individual row has been removed, and she has been added to Jeffrey's row here so that now they can be contributing jointly. If you ever find that maybe a couple has divorced and they're no longer giving jointly, or if maybe someone has passed away and their widow or widower is going to be giving separately now, then you can always uncheck this box here to move them separately as well. So here we have Dave Abbott and Sue Abbott, and now they're no longer contributing jointly. So now we have a row for Sue Abbott as well. And even though Dave is still her spouse, they're just no longer giving jointly. So with that in mind, the different giving units, whether it's an individual person or a married couple, they do have to be married just for tax purposes. Things with different significant others, with just due to tax purposes. If you're submitting a contribution statement, they will have to be considered married in the system. Once you have those marriages taken care of, then you can actually get into assigning them an envelope number. And you can do this both manually and automatically. So if, for instance, we found that, Jeffrey and Natalie Alexander, they just got married, they want an envelope number. Currently, they do not have an envelope number, so we need to add one. So they don't have anything currently, but their next envelope number, their future envelope number, we would be able to put all the way over here to the right under next envelope number. So next envelope doesn't always mean next year's envelope, it just means whenever you do the switch. And for this instance, for a manual entry, even if it's just for one person, you can just put it into the next envelope number. So in addition to marrying them, we're also going to go ahead and put in their number. So whenever you change anything about a person's giving status, whether it's their number or giving jointly or separately, this little dot here, it denotes that there has been a change. And since Jeffrey and Natalie have now been marked as contributing jointly as having been married, now that change has been kind of queued and is ready to be submitted. But in addition to being married, say I want to give them a number. We do have a check system so that if maybe I wanted to give them, maybe 172, then I could type that in. But when I click away from it, we get a little message here saying, hey, hold up. Someone else already has this number, so this is going to cause confusion. So, while you're changing things, it will let you know if there's something already in use. And say if maybe you look back and you're like, maybe David and Shirley, maybe they're not giving anymore, maybe they've passed away, or maybe they've transferred, maybe they don't need that number anymore. By that same idea, you can just edit their next envelope. And if they're no longer going to be using their envelope, then on their particular row for their next envelope, we're just going to clear it out. And so now that that is all cleared out, we can kind of click inside of here and then click away, and it'll let you know that's okay. But once you have that cleared, then that frees it up for the next person. Also, if you find that you have a particular person who is very attached to their envelope number, or if they never want to have an envelope number, then when you use your utility, you can choose to just kind of skip it. So if we knew that for David and Shirley, they absolutely 100% do not need an envelope number for the rest of their days, we can just check this don't renumber box here. And you can see that it kind of turned blue here. It kind of just sets it in stone. So I can click inside of here and I can type in as much as I want, but it cannot be edited. But of course, it can always be unchecked so that I can make any changes that I need. So both in the aspect of adding a new envelope number, say if I chose to now give them 175, then that kind of clears it out. But you can always add in a new envelope number. You can always clear out an envelope number. And if whatever is in this next envelope field, if you absolutely do not want it to change, then you can just check this box and it kind of just sets it in stone. So if they absolutely wanted to have 175, then we could just choose to maintain that number as well. And if you're just manually changing envelope numbers just throughout the year, you can just make these individual changes and click apply changes. And this will make it so that the changes apply automatically. There is no going back, but it is an instant change. So if we ever wanted to apply the changes, we could go ahead and type or put that in. It will let you know how many envelopes are being changed, as well as how many marriages are being changed. And then once you click to apply now, then those numbers are kind of set as the current envelopes now. So, that's kind of what you would expect, throughout the year, just kind of picking and choosing and adding in envelopes one at a time. But then maybe you are nearing the end of the year and you need to renumber everybody. The system does automatically renumber based on alphabetical order, as we can see here. But you can also filter this view as well. And you can use that using either a smart group or the smart group traits here. And over on this right-hand side, you can use this drop-down menu to use any sort of smart group that you have saved. So maybe if you only wanted to renumber each member, then you could choose that. And it would just accordingly just kind of filter based on people's membership status. You could also add in a trait by clicking on these three lines here, by maybe not just members, but maybe those who have a certain contribution status. So maybe people who have only contributed in the last year. So you can always add a trait for that as well. So any person who has contributed to any sort of fund, or I could specify the fund, ever, for any amount or by any payment type. So if I wanted to use this trait to show just people who have contributed during 2023, then that kind of filters the view here to just 96 people. So then I can kind of use these kind of filters to determine exactly who needs to be renumbered. And then with this particular filter in effect, on the bottom here, we do have a renumbering utility. And over on the left-hand side of this black bar, it says automatically renumber envelopes starting with a number of your choice. So you can see here that my current envelope, it kind of starts on 101. It can be any sort of numbering system you want to start with. So instead of just 1, maybe I can just start with 101 and click the renumbering button. And by doing that, it reorders everybody and it assigns the number subsequently, and skipping those that have been marked to be skipped. So here we have the Alexanders are not being reassigned any sort of number because it's locked in. Sally Baxter here, she has 102, and the Abbotts have 101. So that hasn't changed. But those that have changed, you can see here we have these little dots here, just denoting that there is a change that is in the queue to be submitted. And from here, you have the option to either discard the changes and just start fresh, and just whatever it is they have currently, they still have. We can apply the changes, which is an immediate process that cannot be undone. And you would have those new envelope numbers now, or we can schedule the renumbering. So say maybe you already know what the new numbers are going to be in October or November, and you want to get a little bit of a head start. You can put in those renumbering numbers and then just kind of schedule it until after the first of the year. So if I wanted to save these changes here and click the scheduled renumbering here, then I can choose the date that they actually switch over. And I would recommend, instead of using January 1st, I would kind of go maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks further into the year before they actually switch over, just so that you have all of the 2024 offerings inputted in using the old numbers, just to save the offering entry people, save them some confusion. And then we can just kind of save that for later. And should you ever need, let's go ahead and go back to the main envelope area. So say you scheduled it to be you scheduled it to be renumbered, and you want to make a few changes. If you go back to the envelopes view here, it will have a little notification up here letting you know that, hey, these are scheduled to have a different envelope. And then you can always go in and edit the scheduled renumbering, even if it's just to change a date for when they actually switch over. You can always edit it, make any sort of changes that you want, and then just kind of resave that scheduled renumbering as you need, or you can just delete it entirely. So, once you have it scheduled, it's not set in stone, but you just have the option to edit or remove it entirely. And when you're specifically looking at things like envelope labels, when we print out labels, you will be able to choose between a current envelope number, like here, or you can choose the next envelope number as well. So that's another perk for having a scheduled envelope session, so that you can also have those labels created and printed out and ready before the first of the year as well. So we kind of have these different aspects of offerings. We have the funds that we attribute them to. We have the pledges for people to give, and then we have the people's envelope numbers if we need to have them. And now that we have these kind of in place, now we can actually get into the offering entry process here. And to do that, on this top toolbar here, we'll have people, events, attendance, and then we'll have offerings. And if we click on offerings here, this does bring us to the offering screen. And first, we're going to look at the button for new batch next to the offering title here. And regardless of whatever the date range, whatever this shows, you can always start a new batch from any sort of date. And when you click on here, you'll be able to choose whichever the date this offering is going to be attributed to. And so instead of May 1st, I can click here and choose the 28th instead. And if there is an event scheduled on that day, then you can attach an offering to that event. It doesn't affect any sort of contribution statements or any sort of trend report, but it just keeps track of exactly which event this offering was taken. So it's just extra organizational information if you need it. And then we'll click Add. And this is our batch entry screen. And first we'll see the initial date. We'll have the date for the batch. If you ever find that you made a mistake and you need to change the date, you can click this edit button and change whatever the date is, or if you needed to connect it to an event. Then we have the entry row here. And for this first row, we will click the name or the envelope. And you can do this by clicking on the drop-down menu and start typing in the person's name. Say maybe David and Shirley Alexander. Then we'll click on the payment type. And there are these four little symbols here that you can choose from. The first one is cash. It looks like a dollar bill. The second one is a check. The third one is electronics, and that can be through a debit card, credit card, or online giving. And then the last one is a truck symbol for gift in kind. And this is for any sort of non-monetary giving. So for David and Shirley Alexander, I'll go ahead and just click on the cash icon here, and I can skip the check number. And then I'll select whatever fund it is that they want to give. And I can also just scroll and select whichever fund they want to give to, and then also input the amount. So maybe $100. From here, I can add a memo if I needed to, or I could just press the enter button and move on to the next row. And you can see here that there is this little, that little saved icon here that just showed up briefly, that showed that it was saved. The men's ministry, it is now color coded, so that shows that it has been created and it has been posted at the same time. So there is no creating a batch and then posting it. It's all an automatic and immediate process. So very similarly, I could scroll down here and find another person, or once you click inside of this drop-down menu, you can actually use your keyboard as well. So instead of just scrolling or using the mouse, I can use the arrow keys here to select a specific person, and then also press 1, 2, 3, or 4 to designate what their payment type is. I'll go ahead and go with a check this time. And with the check, that does open up the check number. So I can click the tab key to go over to check number and type in that number. Then I'll tab over to the fund again, and here I can use the arrow keys. I can type in the name of the fund, or I can type in the fund number as well. So whichever one it is that you prefer, you can use that, and then just enter in the regular amount. Also, when entering in an offering for a giver, you have the option to give different amounts to different funds. So say if maybe Jeffrey and Natalie wanted to give to both the building fund and to the music fund, then they can give 50 to the building fund. And down here, sorry, very faintly, you can see that there is an additional drop-down menu that you can click on and choose that additional fund and then put in that additional amount. And so both of these would be attributed to Jeffrey and Natalie, but they are divided into two different funds, so that when we click enter, they're both entered in accordingly. And then we'll do just one more, say for Deidre here. And we'll go ahead and put this as a gift in kind. So for a gift in kind, this is any sort of non-monetary donation. It can be food, it can be a car, it can be stock. If it's just non-monetary and you just don't know what the amount is, you don't have to attribute it to a fund, but you do have that option if you needed to. And you can add in the amount if you want to, or if the donor gives that amount to you on what it is worth, you can enter that in. But primarily, all you need for a gift in kind is just a memo. So maybe just baked pies for bake sale. And so then you can just put that on their statement, just to know that that has been attributed to them. And so with those different payment types and those different funds, on the bottom right here, you can see that these are all being totaled up. And these are divided both by fund on the left-hand side, and then on the top by each payment type. So it's just that extra bit of information as you need, and then it also has totals for each as well. From here, you can print or download the batch as it is for extra information if you need to save it for your records. If you do choose to print it from the browser, I would recommend making sure that you have it in landscape mode in the upper right hand corner here, so that you can include any sort of memos if you have them. Otherwise, the portrait is just fine. But if you are in doubt, then it can't ever hurt to just download it to Excel. So then you just have all of the columns that you need, and that you can edit it as however it is that you want. So once you have gone ahead and put that in, it is already posted, it's already entered. So if we ran statements for either of the Alexanders or for Deidre, these offerings would already be on their statement. So it is an automatic process, no posting required. Once you go back to the offerings view here, you can then kind of see as you start adding more and more offerings, you can see more of this information in this area. And underneath the offerings title here, we do have a date range that you can select for more information down here. And if you click on here, you can determine both the beginning and the end of your date range, as however it is that you'd like, and then change it however you need. Or you can go back and forth on this graph and just highlight which areas it is that you want. So, you have these two different options, and the date range does update however it is that you need. So however, whatever information it is that you need, you can just highlight here as well. And with this information here, you can also choose how much detail is actually being shown here. So if you wanted, say, maybe just January to February 2023, or January 1st through 31st here, and we just wanted a summary, then we do have the option in this offerings view. And if we go over to the right-hand side where it says offerings, in this drop-down menu, this is where you determine exactly how you'd like this information to be shown. So for January 2023, maybe I want to see a summaries by fund. And I select that, and you can see those funds here. Or I can see a summaries by giver and see their giving range, their pledging range, and their percentage of their goal. Just determine it on their giver. And you can also choose exactly what people you want to be shown as well. So if you wanted to show just members and show their summaries, then you can set it up like this. Or instead of members, you can choose to show everybody. And you can see that it would just update accordingly. After that, you do have different options on what information you can see for different summaries as well. So just whatever information it is that you need, you would have that available, and then you can download or print that information as well. Circling back on the more detailed view, under offerings, you can see here that each individual offering has its own row. And with each row, you have this very specific information. So if we are looking at this specific view here, we can scroll up and down and see any sort of giver, fund, the amount. We can definitely track down a specific offering should we need it. And also, you have the option to apply filters based on some of this information. So if, for instance, you find something is looking a little odd and you want to see maybe just offerings that Louis and Pamela Fernandez have given. If you hover over their name, you can see here that it's kind of highlighted in bluish green. If you click on their name, it will actually add a filter underneath here so that you can see just this particular date range, but for this particular giver. And so this can definitely help you track down if someone may be claiming that there is a missing offering, so that might be of help as well. In addition to filtering by giver, you can also filter by fund as well. So if I wanted to see everything in this date range that was given to the Young Adults Ministry, I can click on here, and then the date range is selected still, and the fund is filtering it. So only offerings related to this fund are being shown. And then also the final filter that we have is also the payment type. So if you're also like double checking something maybe from Banco or something and you wanted to see just a particular electronic offering, then you could just kind of find one particular offering here that was electronic and you can click on it and you can add in that payment type filter as well. So there are many different filters that you can add in here, as well as the date ranges. So you can definitely track down an offering should you need it. And with that in mind, that also includes tracking down a badge if you ever needed to make any sort of changes. So if, maybe you're thinking, oh, I made a mistake on that offering that I just put in, I could find that particular offering and by using the date range or the graph here. And I can track down these particular offerings from the detailed view. And you'll also notice that as I hover over certain offerings, there are groups of offerings that are highlighted. So here you can see that when I'm hovering over one of the January 7th offerings, that 4 of them are being highlighted. This basically shows that these were all added in as a singular batch. So this shows that these 4 offerings were added as a batch together. And similarly, for the ones that we just added in today, we can see that those 3 offerings are now grouped together as well. So even if we have a batch that is the same date as another batch, they're still grouped separately. So then you can just kind of organize as you need. And then with that in mind, when you have a particular batch highlighted, as we do here, we can click anywhere in the white area here, so not selecting any sort of filter, but selecting the batch itself. we can click on this and reopen the badge. So then I can, go into this particular badge and either go over to a row and click on the minus sign to delete a row in the badge, or I can delete the badge entirely and then just start from scratch as I need. And from there, you can download or print another batch entry report as you need for any of your needs. So with that in mind, this is how you would add in these particular collections, and you would add in manual offerings. But we also have a particular integration with the e-giving service Vanco. And I want to go over to another site real quick. So over here, you would go over to Vanco integration by going up to the gear icon, and under administration, there is a Vanco integration option, and it brings you to this page. For Vanco integration, you will need to have credentials given to you by Vanco for syncing purposes. So this will not be the same credentials you use to sign into your Vanco account. These would be specific for syncing. So you would need to contact Vanco, and they would give you a client ID, a user ID, a password, and an encryption key. And when they do give that to you, you would just input that here. First, you would start with whatever your particular start date is, whenever you want them to start importing. So everything from either today, May 1st, or, maybe you'll choose maybe January 1st. So then you have just all 24 offerings. Then you would go ahead and put in your client ID, user ID, password, and encryption key, and mark this integration as active. Once you click to add it, it will appear down here. You'll only have to add it once per Vanco option or payment type. So if you had like online giving and then you had text to give, you might have to have 2 different credentials here. But otherwise, you just have to input it once. And you can see here that we do have the information here, including the password and encryption key. And then over here where it says active, it should always have today's date, which this one does, which shows that it has been syncing and that it will continue to sync. And essentially, this service, it does run about every 6 hours. So it will continually update itself so that, you have all of these offerings available to you. However, all of the offerings, they will be sent over, but they might need to still be linked to particular givers or specific funds. And you would also do this from the Vanco integration area. So once you go ahead and put in those credentials, you can ignore this top part. But you would want to come and visit just every once in a while and look at your synced givers and your synced funds. So for givers, we'll go ahead and click on this link here, and it will open up your list of all of the givers that it has detected as having an offering from Vanco. And if they are this gray color and are not matched and not looking green like we have here, then they have not been matched to a members giver. So even if Tim Benedict here has given, it's not going to show up on his contribution statement because Church360 doesn't know to link it to his account just yet. But that's the determination that you make here. So if we have a new giver and his name is Tim Benedict, we can hover over his row right here, and we'll click where it says members giver, and it will bring up this drop down menu, and you'll be able to type in his name and find him relatively quickly. We'll have Timothy Benedict here, and then we'll link his information to it. And so it's brought down here where everything has been linked, just everything that hasn't been matched, just floats to the top just so that you know. And then you just kind of connect those other people as you need. And once those people are linked, anytime they give an offering through the account that you have linked to their members giving unit, then that would automatically update to their contribution list in their statement. So, you just want to make sure that all of your synced givers have been linked. We don't want, people not to be matched. If there is ever a person where they gave once, maybe they just gave during the Easter season, they don't want a contribution statement, you don't have a record in members to print a statement for them, then you can also choose to click on this minus icon here, and you can choose to ignore them. So then their information will not be shown on your totals or anything, and you won't have to continually get something, a notification that something hasn't been linked to a person because there's nothing to link it to. So once you have everybody kind of linked up here, you are pretty much set to go. The only difference would be if there is maybe a giving status that changes. So say maybe Troy and Kira Belton here, maybe they have divorced. And so, everything that's coming from the Troy Belton account, we only want it to go to just Troy. So we would have to come back here, just kind of double check, and we might have to unlink from the Troy and Kira account so that we can relink it to just Troy. So in order to unlink an account that's already been linked, you would find their row here and click on the minus icon and choose to unlink them. And when you choose to unlink them, you can see up here that Troy Belton is now not matched to a giver, but we can click on here again and just type in his name and attribute it to only him. So once you put into their person record that they're divorced, they're giving separately, or if it was a widow or widower and they're giving separately now, you should be able to unlink and then just give it to just that specific person. Then once you have all of the givers linked, then we can go back up here to Vanco integration, and then we can kind of take a look at funds as well, and they operate in the same way. Just basically just choosing where these e-giving offerings are being attributed to, and very similar to the givers, you would just select them on their row and just choose whichever fund it is from the Vanco fund, whatever members fund you want to link it to. And then you would just link it and then just kind of forget about it and just kind of come back and check to see if there are any other offerings for funds that haven't been linked up just yet. So I'd say just review that maybe every other month or maybe every month or something. Just to make sure that everybody is being attributed to, so that anytime that you generate any sort of statement or list of pledge progress, that they are being having their offerings totaled correctly. So with that in mind, going back to our other site here, once you have everything set up and over the year you're putting in different offerings here, then it comes a time where you need to generate a contribution statement. And you can do this from the people view here. And very similar to many other views, you can type in the search bar to find a particular person. You can use the smart groups that you have saved here, or you can use smart group traits to filter your people list here. So here I have 198 people. Maybe I don't want to give statements to just absolutely everybody. So maybe I want to add in members, maybe who contributed a certain amount, more than maybe 250 or something, for a specific year for 2023. And then that filters accordingly, and so that brings down to a further amount. But even if you just go with maybe just a list of members, and you want to just print for all members and anybody who is given, then you can certainly choose that as well. So whoever it is that you have filtered, that would be included, or you can select individual people, whichever one you prefer. And once you have your people selected or visible, then you would click this download button here and click contribution statements. And this will open up a little view here. The top area for the general tab here, you can select your date range. So you can select a particular year. You can generate statements monthly, quarterly, annually, whichever date range it is that you prefer. We do have these two little links here where we can choose last year, or we can choose this year up until today. And then you can just generate a report according to that. And then you also have the option to generate empty statements for anybody that you have selected. So if you have people selected that haven't given, but they still want to have a statement, just for their records, then you can check this box and it will generate an empty statement. But if this is unchecked, then it essentially lets you know that if they haven't given in this date range that you've selected, they're not going to get a statement. Now, before I get to generating a PDF or getting down to the bottom half, I want to go over to the Customize tab real quick, as this has just a few extra little bells and whistles that you can add to your contribution statement. If they do have any sort of pledges, you might choose to have a summary for a giver's pledge on their contribution statement. Many churches prefer to give an itemized list on each offering and not just totals for each fund. So you can check that box to include that. Then also, if you have a logo in the upper left-hand corner of your site that you added in account settings, you can also include that church logo as well, just to add just that extra, little addition to it. From there, you can add the federal ID if you have it. It's not required to generate contribution statements, but it's just an extra information. And then we have the IRS message, and this is just the typical, they didn't get any goods and services for their donation. It was a true donation out of the kindness of their heart, and we are thankful for that. And you can go with just the general IRS message if you need to, or you can edit and save this as you need. But then once you have the top portion selected, now you have two different options. And that is, do you want to generate a PDF right here so that you can then download and then print those statements as you need? Or if the person has an email address, you can actually send the PDF as an attachment from the Church360 system directly. And if we go down the latter route, you can actually edit whatever email message it is that you're interested as well. So you can definitely just choose whatever email message it is that you want, and then you would choose to review an email where you would select their particular contact information, which email addresses you want to send it to, and then move from there. So you want to click one or the other on these buttons. So, generating it would allow it to be downloaded, reviewing and emailing it, there wouldn't be a download involved. So that is kind of the summary for offerings. I did have a few quiz questions, if that's okay. Just stick with me just for a few more minutes, just to make sure that I didn't forget anything. And if I did, you can report me. All right, so 4 polls. So first off, we have to mark any contribution as tax deductible. There is a checkbox in the batch entry screen. So while you're entering in individual offerings, you're going to mark an offering as tax deductible. Okay, looks like we're slowing down. All right, I'll end it. And it's a bit of a trick question, but you don't check the box on the batch entry screen. You would designate the fund. So you would do the checkbox on the fund to mark it as non-tax deductible, or if you wanted to exclude it from statements entirely. So that's just always just something to keep in mind. Next. When entering in offerings, you can select one person and one payment type, but then you can split the offering in different funds. All right then. Y'all definitely knew that one. Okay, that is true. So, you know, even if it's a check, if they put that they want 50 in one fund and 50 in the other, then you can do that with the same check. Next, we have a filter question. So on that offerings view, what fields can you filter by? The giver name, the fund, the payment type, or all of the above? Can't get anything past you guys. All right. All right. So that answer is D, all of the above. So you can filter your offerings and make it make that view just however it is that you need it to be. And then you can also download and print directly from that screen as well, so you can make a mini report out of it. Then we have a marriage question. In order to be on the same envelope and to give jointly, a couple has to be married. All right then. Okay, we got a bit of a split here. The answer is true. Just for tax purposes, since we are generating a contribution statement to show your tax deductions, they would have to be listed as each other's spouse. So, you know, you could add that either on their person record and mark them as married, or you can do that from the envelope screen. So that just kind of sums up for my poll questions. Do we have any questions? It looks like there are a couple that haven't been answered. So I will definitely answer those in just a couple seconds. But if you have no more questions and you need to leave, then, just thank you for attending, and feel free to reach out to support. And, we're just happy to have you.